But I will say now, being an officer and having a greater impact, especially on the people that are underneath me, that's what I really do it
Yeah.
for now. I do it for the people that I work for because they rely on me. And, if I mess something up or if I let something slide by, that can affect them. I mean, that could affect them, their pays, that could affect their career.
Yeah.
If I make a mistake on, an evaluation or paper, anything. So, I that's where I try to approach things is like these people, my team, they rely on me. So I owe it to them to give it my all and give it 100%.
Hello, ladies and gents. I'm Glenn, aka Nurse Dad, former Navy hospital corpsman and current ER nurse. Welcome to my podcast. And why am I filming this introduction from my porch in the middle of the night? Well, easy answer. I'm dropping this episode later in the evening or early morning, and I need to get it done. I am a working man. This is a working person's podcast. If you haven't noticed, it's a busy week, and this is how we do. But before you see my dynamic and entertaining discussion with Lieutenant McCarthy, who was a former Navy hospital corpsman like myself and is now a naval officer and an outstanding one at that, I just wanted to elaborate a little bit on something we talk about. It was the 13th Marine Expeditionary Unit, or the 13th MEU. This was back in 2013. It was a deployment that we were both on together. And basically, I'm speaking in layman's terms here. It's basically a Marine battalion that is on a ship. It operates on and off a ship. You leave the ship to do a mission or to do a training evolution, and then you come back to the ship. You may be gone for a week. You may be gone for a month, 2 months. That's basically the skinny of it. And, wherever you need it in the world, basically, there you are, a floating city. And I was part of Charlie Company, 1st Platoon. He was a part of headquarters. And I want to talk about two things about that deployment. One, the scariest training I ever did. It was a live fire exercise, and I was with my platoon in Africa, and we basically, what happens is you load your magazines. Excuse me. A magazine is what military personnel call a clip. You load a clip into a gun. It's a magazine. So the magazines I was using, they carried 30 rounds or bullets. And so what they do is you load like 4 or 5 or 6 of them. And at the end of the training or at the end of each cycle, they're going to count how many rounds are left. And it has to be a certain amount that are no longer, that are not there, right? Or the magazine has to be completely empty. And I was an IA, individual augmentee. I came in from Italy to attach to this unit. I did none of the pre-deployment training. I mean, I had experience with Marines in the past, but for this specific unit, I did none of the pre-deployment training. I kind of just showed up, and here I am, right? And what was scary about this, because I've done live fire exercises before, but what was scary about this day was that 2 years prior, on the 11th Marine Expeditionary Unit, the 11th MEU, which is basically a very similar operation, my buddy, another corpsman, he was killed. Friendly fire. He was accidentally shot by one of his Marines on the field that I was on at that time, and it freaked me out. I was shaken. I was nervous. Not a good thing to be when you need to kind of lose yourself and just do, right? And if you had to grade me, I probably did not pass because I did not fire all my rounds. I did not do what I should have done. I wasn't at my best. And I actually was able to go to the spot where he was killed. And, if you're from a hot place like Arizona or Southern California, you know that the earth gets real clay-like when the sun's beating on it and it cracks. Well, in Africa, 11 degrees from the equator, the ground really gets clay-like, and the cracks are just like these deep, wide cracks. And I swear, it was like looking at these cracks on the spot where he went down. You see the darkness between the cracks. It's almost like this it feels like it would lead to the underworld. It's almost like you can hear. It's like Hades. You can hear like the souls down there. Like in the underworld. It was really kind of freaky, and yeah, that was the scariest training evolution. And when he did die, I was at Camp Pendleton at a clinic there, and his family came, parents did the walkthrough, showed them where he worked, and I spoke with them, and I gave my condolences. So it was a very nerve-wracking time. So that was the scariest training I ever did. Now, the most profound test of my life, this happened also on deployment. Now, without getting into too many details, basically this unit needed to go through a training evolution in order to gain their certification to go into combat for a particular reason. So for this training, it was going to be a TRAP mission, a tactical recovery of aircraft and personnel. Marines were going to go in via helicopter and go to where there were casualties, and which was kind of profound because that's a medical mission, right? So they chose 16 Marines and 1 corpsman. They chose me as the corpsman, the IA, the individual augmentee, the guy who just showed up. So long story short, we're in the air, we're in the bird. It's a Super Sea Stallion, or the Cadillac, because it's so big and spacious. I actually like them better than Ospreys. Very spacious. We also call them the shitters, because you'll be sitting down and, like, I don't know if it's hydraulic fluid, I don't know what it is, but this brown fluid would just drip on you the entire time. Really kind of aggravating. Drip on your nose, drip on your forehead, drip on your, you ruin your uniform, this brown fluid. So anyway, I'm in the shitter with 16 Marines. Now the pilot's going to do their training their training as well. So the training for them is they're going to refuel while in the air. So we're in the air for at least an hour. Another bird comes in the air, connects, starts refueling. Suddenly you get this whiff of like gasoline. Now you start feeling sick. And I lean back, my camel pack busts, this 3-liter camel pack that I bought because I drink a lot of water. I completely soaked my back, my butt, my legs. I feel sick. Just this profound, thick smell of gasoline. Finally, maybe it was like we were in the air for 2 hours. Finally land in the middle of Africa. We're told that there could be Taliban in the area, so watch out. Helicopter lands, got the night vision on, run out. We have 2 casualties. They're mock casualties, but we got to treat them like they're real casualties. I have a 6-man litter team that I trained, 6 Marines that are like basically mine. We have other Marines who are going to give us cover if we need it. So one of the patients had two broken femurs. So I had several Marines take off their belts. I think it was like 5 belts in general, and strap the legs together, right, to stabilize that injury. And then I go to the other patient who has 4 sunken chest wounds, like shot 4 times. So I'm treating that patient. That's the more serious patient for me. And I notice, standing in the middle of the night, in the middle of Africa, a Marine officer, a Navy officer, a Navy chief, my chief, and the leading petty officer watching me in the middle of Africa, in the middle of the night. And so I was on top of my skills, though. So I do what I do. I'm told that a Air Force PJ, a pararescue jumper, they're going to come in via helicopter, land, and we're going to take their casualties to them, and they're going to land in 2 minutes. So hurry up. So the PJ lands, and this particular bird has a low tail with the tail that ended the helicopter with the propeller. So we're advised, like, hey, don't run into that propeller. So it's pitch black. There's no moon. You get your little, your night vision. It blinks on and off because it's constantly malfunctioning. So we bring the casualties on board. We manage to not get chopped up by the propeller. I give a little, transfer notes, to the PJ. I'm speaking in layman's terms. So if I look like I'm fishing for words and I sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, I'm trying to speak in layman's terms. The PJ actually gives me my greatest compliment ever. He says, he tells a Marine, he runs out of the bird to tell a Marine, hey, tell Doc that he did an amazing job. I don't have to do anything. So that was great. Oh, and right after that, I hear in the sky, there's a jet. There's a jet. Part of this training, they send a jet. Can you imagine the amount of money? You know, it costs $10,000 an hour to keep a helicopter in the air at the time, just a helicopter. And so it was incredible. And long story short, we got our certification. And not only that, as a caveat to that, like we spent 2 days in the field where other platoons or with their corpsmen would do the same mission, and I was the guy grading them. I was the guy. And also my unit, we got to go back to the ship a couple of weeks early because we were chosen to possibly go with a Navy SEAL team to Yemen, to missions in Yemen, which, Yemen is a pretty dangerous place. So that was a great honor. And that was the most stupendous, most important exam I was ever a part of. And yeah, one of the highlights of my military career was being able to be part of that battalion, to be able for them to get their combat certification. And it was a medical mission. Again, a medical mission. It was amazing. 11 minutes so far. Let's get to the interview. Again, my buddy, Lieutenant McCarthy, outstanding naval officer. I think you're going to get something out of this interview. Without further ado, let's kick this pig.
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. You can
Okay.
hear me?
Yeah, I got you good. I'm on a work computer. So I just want to make sure you can see me and hear me okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah. We used like you're working late kind of thing, or
Well, no, not late. But I'm in between commands right now. I'm at the War College for a course, and then go back home at the end of the month, and then we're flying to Japan mid-June. So just yeah, a lot going on.
relocating, like a
Yeah,
permanent duty station.
yeah, permanent duty station.
If I had stayed in, I was thinking about that in Japan, that location. It's a hospital, right? Like on the mainland over there on the coast.
Yeah, there is a hospital. I'm not going to the hospital though. I'm going to the actual fleet headquarters.
Okay.
So I'm going to be the
Yeah,
the
yeah,
regional med
yeah.
planner.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thanks.
Congratulations.
Thanks. Yeah, I
What,
appreciate it.
I mean, like, it's whatever you can say about it, but what's part of like the war, what's the war college, the Naval War College that you're going to? What is it for? Is it for leadership or?
Yeah, so the Naval War College is an actual like accredited university, regional university or what have you. They even have a partnership with Brown, which I thought was really fascinating. Multiple courses there. There's a staff, command and staff school. There's a JPME, I think 1 and 2. There resident
Yeah,
programs, and there's various programs there. But I'm specifically going to a course called Maritime Staff Operators Course, or MSOC.
yeah,
It's a prerequisite for any staff officers or senior enlisted that are heading to fleet staff to prepare them on how to operate within the construct of what's called the Maritime Operations Center.
mhm,
Um, yeah, so it's 5 week course, little bit of death by PowerPoint, and then it
yeah.
kind of evolves into this battle lab, this practical application. We're going to kind
That's
of put
great.
everything that we're learning, yeah, to the test.
I live vicariously through you, man.
Yeah, it wasn't by choice. It's a requirement for my new job, but we're making the best of it. Obviously, don't like to be away from the wife and kids, but
Yeah.
it is
How
what it
many kids
is.
you have? You have two, right?
Yeah, two. Yeah, my daughter's about to turn 8 this summer, and then my son just turned 6. So
Yeah. What a trip, right? When I met
yeah,
you,
it's
you just got married when I met you, and then
yeah,
uh yeah, it changes so fast, especially once kids happen. You just transformative.
I know. And look
So
at you
just
now,
like,
man. You're doing big things, man. Great to see everything that you're doing. The podcast is awesome. So
yeah, this is just like, why not? You know, I don't. I'm a man who, I don't like just vegging out on my spare time. Not that I have a lot of spare time, but I just like maximizing my time. So, I'm like working on a graphic novel. I'm like, what can I do with my career? I'm kind of in a limbo period because I want to be with my kids. They're toddlers. I might segue into medical sales. I might go back to school. Not really sure. But so I was like, this is just something, why not? Let's give it a chance. I like talking to people. And I have to say, it kind of reinvigorated my uh, my appreciation for the medical community and the ability to just have conversations with people from all different backgrounds.
Yeah.
So just for the audience, I first encountered you in 2013. I was an IA, or individual augmentee. I think that's what right? That's what they called it,
Hmm.
the IA. So I had come from Naples, Italy. I deployed with 1st Battalion, 4th Marines. You were organic to that unit. I was attached to a battalion landing team, which is basically a Marine infantry platoon that comes in and out of a helicopter. Might arrive via helicopter, do a trap mission, a tactical recovery of aircraft and personnel. You may fast rope, so you're departing the helicopter while it's still in the air via a rope, or it may land and you're running out. So that's where I encountered you. And I want to go into that on how I first met you later, because it's a funny story. I don't know if you remember it. It was we sort of had an argument, but you did something that got my respect, because it just shows what a class act you are. So I'll get into that, but I just wanted
Okay.
to point out that no, it's a good story. Don't worry. I just want to point out to people that you are now a Mustang. When I met you, you were a Navy Hospital Corpsman, an enlisted man. That is basically the Navy's version of a medic. You're with infantry, Marine infantry, and now you're a Mustang, which is probably it's prior enlisted. It's what us enlisted people who we respect the most as officers, because at least we hope that a Mustang will show a lot more understanding to what we do. Um, but I wanted to ask you, was that something you had in the back of your mind even when I knew you? Did you know you wanted to go to officer route?
Yeah, I think, gosh, that's a good question. I think that deployment actually kind of solidified it. And, we'll get into my story and kind of the path that I took. But when I originally joined, my dad had asked if I would consider going to college and becoming an officer. Much easier life, right? But I just needed to kind of get out of my situation in Arizona. So it was in the back of my head, but I didn't necessarily like know which type of officer, right? There's so many different types of officers. But
Yeah.
on that deployment is where I found out about healthcare administrators, with the Merco that was on the fleet surgical team.
And that deployment was a MEU, basically a Marine Expeditionary Unit. We were on the USS Boxer. It's, I guess, like almost 3,000 people. It's kind of like a half the size of a carrier. And it's transporting Marines. It has sailors, obviously, but it carries a lot of Marines. And we were operating out of like a sick bay or a medical area for our unit, and that was kind of like our HQ as corpsman. And guys like me who were attached to a particular platoon would come in to check in, or for training, or to whatever we have to do. Um, so it wasn't like we weren't deployed to a certain country, boots on the ground kind of thing. We could, from the USS Boxer, go to different territories as needed, but we mainly operated on the ship, and then we would leave the ship for various trainings and potential operations. So that was very interesting, because before Naples, I was actually at Camp Pendleton. I was part of the branch clinic of Naval Hospital. I was attached to the School of Infantry, and it was technically a blue side command, even though like from I
Right,
was in
right.
field section, and so I just had like things I wasn't able to accomplish because of that. Like I couldn't get my FMF pin. I just
Hmm.
you are surrounded by all these stories coming back from fleet returnees and people who have deployed, and I was just so gung ho about actually doing that. And I got I got overseas to Europe, and it was amazing. But first chance I could, I wanted to deploy, and I did. And so when they sent me back to Camp Pendleton, that's when I met you. You were organic to the unit. I was just, kind of just showing up. You guys actually, I think you had just gotten back from like pre-deployment training. You're spending all this time getting ready for deployment, and guys like me
Yeah.
show up like, oh, I got a couple of days, huh? You know,
Yeah,
what are you
I
doing around
actually,
here?
yeah, and I didn't realize that you had came all the way from Naples.
Yeah, yeah. It's funny.
Yeah. All the
Um,
naval hospitals around Pendleton, and they pull people from halfway across the world. It's funny.
At that time, what was interesting is I never thought about a Mew. It's 2013 time frame. You're thinking about. It was an Afghanistan deployment that I originally uh, uh, went for, and then when I got back from pre-deployment leave, it switched to the Mew, the Marine Expeditionary Unit. I never really thought about that, but that's really the roots of the Marine Corps, like the restructuring in 1936, and the you
Yeah.
know the word marine is a maritime word. Like it's the ability to operate um from a ship, First Battalion, Fourth Marines, the Guadalcanal, the South Pacific, all those Marines going in World War II to the South Pacific. Like that's what it's all about, to be able to do that, to be able to stage an invasion from a ship, and uh you know uh, gain territory. So I never really thought about that, operating in that way, and it was really
Hmm.
fascinating. But yeah, getting back to you, so you kind of had in the back of your mind that you wanted to be an officer, but I would imagine, I mean, when I met you, I was 31 years old, 30 years old. So think about that now. How old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
35.
All right, so you were considerably younger in
Yeah, I think I was
2013. So I would
23.
imagine
Yeah.
you didn't like. Yeah, I would imagine you didn't know how to go about becoming an officer. Like you're still kind of seeing how you can even do something like that. You're just kind of gaining your bearings. Like you're probably at the time focused on making second class petty officer, and you were in a leadership position. That's certainly that was the case. So you were still climbing the ladder in terms of being an enlisted man and showing what you can do um,
Yeah.
at that time. So I would imagine like you're kind of like, well, officer, that'd be great, but you were kind of focused on what you were doing there. But we were close to like the whole mechanism, like especially being a corpsman, like you're a one-on-one with a lot of Marine officers, and you're you're dealing very closely to naval physicians and that sort of thing. Is that kind of what you're talking about? You kind of bumping elbows with people who are ranked much higher than you, who are officers. Like that's the kind of advantage we have as corpsmen.
Yeah, and I think you hit it on the nail. I mean, we have that advantage, and it's just like the nature of the beast. And then at a Mew, and everybody's enclosed in this ship, you're gonna have conversations and run into people. But honestly, it was the healthcare administrator that was on the boat. I found out what she did. I didn't. It never crossed my mind. I didn't realize that there was a position in Navy medicine, that you could still be involved in medicine, but not be directly involved in patient care, if you will. And I think I was
Mhm.
losing my interest, not interest, but my passion for patient care, if you will. Yeah, I'd done 2 years in 29 Palms. I worked in the emergency department, not a busy hospital, but it was still somewhat busy, and then doing back-to-back deployments with the Marines, and then doing sick call every day. Like I was just like,
Mhm.
I don't know if this is for me. But I really enjoyed medicine. I enjoy what we do for our patient population. what we give back to the community. So when I found out that there was a role that I could both be in medicine, but not be directly in patient care, I dove all in.
Yeah, you went the route. In Naples. There was an IDC that I worked with. He was total greenside corpsman before that, 3 combat deployments and he went your route. He became an officer, healthcare administration while I was there. And yeah, that's it's interesting to hear you speak because I don't think people understand just how much like the volume of patient care that you do when you're in the military. And it's a 24-hour responsibility. You know that you could be
Right.
called at any time and you may work at any time. And the level of responsibility that you have, I think very quickly you can gain a perspective as to what you want to do. And let's face it, the military, what I love about it is that if you work hard, you want something, you'll probably get it. You'll if I would imagine there are certain parameters that you had to meet to even qualify to pursue what you're pursuing, right? Like a certain rank that you had to achieve. Because did you go to school while you were in? Did you accomplish it while you
Yeah.
were? Is that how it was?
Yes.
Tuition's assistance?
Yes. I can give you kind of like the lowdown, if you will, on some of
Yeah,
the
please.
requirements. So you had to be an E5. So the program that I applied for, that I ultimately got selected, is called Medical Service Corps in Service Procurement Program, MSCIPP. I'm sure you've heard of it.
Yes.
Have to be E5, no NJPs within the last 5 years. You have to have a qualifying
Now,
master's
what's an
degree.
NJP for? What's an
Yeah.
NJP for the people who don't know?
Yeah, so non-judicial judicial punishment, basically,
Don't get in trouble.
yeah, if you get in trouble, it's a formal process of getting your licks, if you will, getting
Yeah.
your
Because
punishment.
character is very important. Character is extremely
Yeah,
important in the military, and especially as an officer.
right. Yeah, so I think at the time you had to have a minimum of bachelor's degree to put on ensign or O1, or you
Yeah.
could have a qualifying master's degree and very specific master's degrees with very specific accreditation. So MBA with a concentration in healthcare management, MPH or MHA. And then you have to do interview panels. You have to have 3 interviews from O5s or above, multiple letters of recommendation, and then an entire
Yeah.
package, like 14-page package. I mean, and there's even more that has to go into that. It's a daunting process.
Oh, I bet. I bet. And I'm just curious too. So again, to reiterate, you're a Mustang. That's a prior enlisted. And for me, one of the most respected officers. Not that I haven't met officers that are just like just amazing. Who that was their route. They went straight from school to becoming officers. I'm not knocking them, but I'm curious within that realm. Was there sort of like a hierarchy? Like, did you have people who were from like Annapolis, looking at you like, oh, the prior enlisted guy, or people who like just were right out of college, it's
Yeah,
just the games. Were there any? Is there
yeah.
sort of hierarchy when you're coming through that
Yeah,
system?
I would say there is and there isn't. As a medical service corps officer, as a healthcare administrator, I've never met somebody who went to Annapolis because their degree pipeline doesn't feed our specific niche. Now I know there's
Right.
doctors out there that went to Annapolis and then got a scholarship to go to USIS. I
Right.
haven't met any of them. My roommate on my past deployment from last year, he's a ring knocker, I think class of 17, great guy, and treated me no different. Honestly, asked me a lot of questions, just from that prior enlisted perspective. So I would say yes, they are out there, but I haven't had any issues, with
Yeah.
any academy grads, if you will. But yeah, I would say that
Yeah.
there is kind of like an unspoken
Yeah. Yeah.
hierarchy, just like anything else. Like you just know your place and you just treat people with respect and you usually
Of
get it in
course.
return, right?
Yeah. No, of course. Especially with you. You're one of the most respectful guys that I had met. So the first time I met you, well, I had met you before, but we were on deployment, and I don't know. I think we were in our kind of Corpsman HQ, our little, part of
Yeah.
the
OR
ship.
OR3, I think it exactly was. We were in an operating room,
Yeah, yeah. It was like I don't know what to call it. We were in a
like
room.
a
It's
makeshift
kind of
office. Like,
and like
yeah,
yeah, like 30 or 40 of us to like squeeze in there for meetings. But I mean, it probably was my fault. I was a little bit more testy back then. I was 31, still an E4. Um, I don't know. But I forgot what it was. I think you had said something and I didn't like, and I said something you didn't like, and we were just it just ended like you're like whatever, and you went your way, I went my way, and I didn't think anything of it. But then you had come up to me the next time, the same day, I think it was, and you were just like, "Hey man, I'm sorry for the way that went." And then I apologized, and I said to myself, like, this guy, I like this guy. Like, I wouldn't even have come up to you. Like, this guy, this younger kid, just displayed behavior. There's more noble than me. More maturity this young guy has than I do. And
yeah,
I'm like, so I was very impressed with you. It was a lot of people don't do that. A lot of you get to a little spat with people, and they don't come up to you and apologize for that.
right.
I was after that. You won me over after that. I was like, okay, this guy. All right, this guy.
Yeah,
He's a
I
good,
think I
cool
vaguely
cat.
remember maybe, on deployment, it's hard to get along with everybody. I mean, especially on a ship where you're so
Yeah,
like enclosed and you can't really get away. Like, there's bound to be something.
and you don't know me. I think there was like a handful of us IAs, and you have a lot of pressure and a lot of, and we weren't there for pre-deployment training, so
Yeah,
it's kind of like you don't have time for chit chat sometimes or attitude, and so yeah, I know. Looking back, I totally get it, but that was really big of you
yeah.
to do that. Now you had just gotten married at that time when you were really getting serious about crossing over to the dark side, as we say, and getting your package together. Did you have like a serious conversation with your wife? Because I said this on another podcast. You could see the look of pain on people's faces when they don't have that support at home. It
Yeah.
takes a military wife is not a spectator in this. They carry a lot of responsibility too. And I just know from your Instagram, you clearly have a lot of support. Your wife clearly knows what she got herself into. Your kids seem great. They're not lacking dad and all that. So, was there a serious conversation before that with her, or was she did she know like right from the beginning what she was getting herself into?
Uh, yeah, I mean, I think there were obviously conversations, but it's hard to kind of have those conversations and explain what it's going to be like with the support that I need, and then also her when she's back home, what kind of support that she would need well as well. But until you do it, I mean, it's really, just like it's hard to explain. It's
Yeah.
but I gotta say, I mean, Ashton's, not only my best friend, but my biggest support system, my motivation. She has not only just stuck by my side, but we've really thrived over the years, and that just comes with teamwork
Mhm.
and just trying to learn from each other and learn as we go and try to get better at things, try to be understandable, try to hear each
Mhm.
other. And
Yeah.
it goes both ways. When I'm on deployment, she really tries to be there for me, be my support system, be a little bit more understanding. But now it's obviously a different dynamic having two kids at home and I'm not
Yeah.
there to help out. So I try to do the same to her, even though I'm on deployment. So it just takes teamwork and she's been just, the best perfect fit for me. And I'm so blessed, have her in my
This
life.
this there's something to be said though when you know that time is not when time is finite, like you're not going to be home all the time every year.
Yeah.
Like I would imagine it makes more precious the time that you are together with your family.
Yeah. I mean, it's what is it?
I mean, it's
April
wild that you're going to
it's
pick up at what? I'm sorry. Sorry to
oh,
cut
I was
you
just
off.
saying the beginning of April, and I'm already on my second TDY of the year. I was gone
Wow. Yeah.
um, basically the entire month of January into February for a separate course. And then I'm gone now for 5 weeks, and then I show up at home, and we leave 2 weeks after I get back, and we're flying to Japan. So
It's
yeah,
wild that you pick up your family and then just go off to another nation like that. And I think people don't realize too that it's not just deployments. You know, it's a 5 week course, or even when you're attached to the ship would go out right for a couple of weeks, come back. It's not like an official
yeah,
deployment, but it's gone. That's definitely worth noting because I think some people on the outside
yeah,
looking in might be like, okay, when's the deployment? All right, I did one here, so I won't have to deploy for. It's like, no, no, no. You might be
yeah,
called to go somewhere for a few weeks. It adds
exactly.
up.
We had the actual deployment last year, but prior to the deployment, like you said, we had I think 3 or 4 pre-deployment underway periods, and then due to my role at my past command, I went to 3 planning conferences overseas that were like 2 weeks at a time. So I was just
Oh,
like
okay. Wow.
constantly gone. Last 2 years has been really challenging. Being an officer, the op tempo, at least in my specific subspecialty as a healthcare administrator, has been very fast and demanding, but it's rewarding. And like I said, Ashton's been very supportive through the transition on becoming an officer, and yeah,
Yeah, even I didn't realize. Like, I kind of see it through you. Just how many times you are called away for training, or um, would, as an officer, do you find like as a corpsman, it was like, this is your job. This is your responsibility. You know, you may pick up rank, you may become, you might have more of a leadership position. You might have people under you, like as a leading petty officer or something like that. But nothing really fundamental changes. You're still in the same, you know, area, like spot. This is your duty station. Your responsibilities might change, but your job is still taking care of your Marines and this unit and so on and so forth. But as an officer, do you have more of like the weight of the Navy on your shoulders, more of the Navy of today, of tomorrow? Like, what is the kind of outward pressures that they put on you? Is it just like this is
yeah.
your job at your command, or is there like a grander scheme once you go, oh,
Yeah. And again, this is just my take and my perspective on this, but I wouldn't
yeah,
say that I necessarily have approached it any differently than I did when I was enlisted. I've always taken
mhm,
pride in even the simple stuff, how I look in uniform, from having a haircut to my uniform being pressed, to how just if I'm walking around the command and I'm seeing somebody that's senior to me, I'm greeting them. I'm trying to give my best quality work in any work that I
yeah,
do. So making that transition to becoming an officer, I wouldn't say it was easy or it was seamless, but I approach it the same way. I try to give 100% every day. But I will say now, being an officer and having a greater impact, especially on the people that are underneath me, that's what I really do
yeah.
it for now. I do it for the people that I work for, because they rely on me. And if I mess something up, or if I let something slide by, that can affect them. I mean, that could affect them, their pays, that could affect their career.
Yeah.
If I make a mistake on, an evaluation or paper, anything. So, I that's where I try to approach things, is like, these people, my team, they rely on me. So I owe it to them to give it my all and give it 100%.
The two things that affect morale in the military the most, I feel are, well, whatever personal family things are happening, obviously, but also leadership. Like if you have
Yeah.
a leader who is bad or not listening or just could care less, it morale goes down. Like
Yeah.
it plummets. It
Yeah, it
plummets.
does.
It really so you have a lot of power. It's not just officers. Your chief, you're leading petty officer, but but yeah, you feel it when you have somebody in charge who is just not there for you. So that's a lot that you must be aware of that, especially as a prior enlisted man,
Yeah,
like more than.
yeah, you got to be aware of it.
But
As a
you're also
leader, as a
upholding the standard too. You're
yeah,
also upholding the
you have to
standard.
uphold standards. But I think one key aspect of leadership is emotional intelligence. And
Yeah.
I can't. I had a small team at my fleet surgical team, which I just PCS from. There was like 18 of us, and I was the assistant OIC. And just
Oh,
making
good.
your rounds every day. It's, checking in with the guys. Just simply, hey, how are you doing today? Well, what do you got going
Yeah.
on today? What can I help you with? And reading the
Yeah.
room,
Yeah.
you start to learn trends and how people are and how they react to some things. You see if somebody's a little off, maybe, just pull them aside and be like, hey, what's going, is everything okay? Can I
Hmm.
help you with anything? Simple stuff like that can really go a long way. And then on the flip side of the coin, though, if they do ask for your help or they ask for something, do it. Follow through, right?
Hmm.
Because that's the
Hmm.
other. How many times have people
Yeah, I'll get
told
right
you, and
on.
when you,
Anything you want,
yeah,
let me know. What was that? All right, I'll get back to you on that. No, yeah,
yeah, and then a week goes
you might
by
hear
and
that a lot.
nothing has happened, right? So,
I know.
being a man of your word, and even if you don't know something or if you don't have the answer right there, just advocating for them, it goes a long way.
Yeah. You were saying with your appearance and things. And when I became a nurse, I think a long time went by before I would even allow a beard to grow.
Yeah.
Um, but as far as appearance, like I like to stand up straight. I keep my clothes are clean. It's funny too, like in the ER, I address physicians. I mean, I'm personable with the physicians. I'm on a first name basis with several. It's a real partnership at times, but for the most part, I show a deference because it's almost as if they're the officers. But I'm also aware of their responsibility, and I've had physicians say, like, hey, man, they became very casual, like, oh, just call me so and so and this and that. And I'll say to them, like, I don't mind the hierarchy. I said, if I wanted more responsibility or I wanted more of something or what you have, then I need to go to medical school. You did it. You're the one that's running the show. Like, I have no problem um, making sure that I have a top-notch answer for somebody why something wasn't done, or to just show up and give that respect. I'm surprised sometimes how it's almost as if they're uncomfortable sometimes because I'm being that respectful. But that totally comes from the Navy. Um,
Yeah.
and Yeah. I do believe in that hierarchy because if we're trying to deliver care to all these people throughout the day, um, or whatever the job is, if we're all like chummy and cool and friend and just like all equal, I feel like the job wouldn't get done like it needs to get done. There needs to be like, this is the person who's the top dog. Then you have this level and this level, and I think that's the best way to help the most amount of people. I don't want to
Hmm.
be like with my feet up and we're all bros and you're the physician and you're the MP and we're all the same. Like, I don't believe in that. And it's like, if I had a problem with that, then I need to go to medical school. That's like kind of how I feel about it. It'd be like somebody who's enlisted and is looking at maybe a chief or an officer and saying, "Oh, I could do that. I want to do that." Well, it's like, then you go do it. But until
Then
you
go do it.
do,
Yeah.
lock it up and be respectful. So I got that from
Right.
the Navy, and I feel like that really has helped me. I think a lot of I kind of push back on. You see a lot more of that, more and more. Like we're all the same. It's like, not really. That person went to medical school. I went to nursing school. If I have a problem with that, then I should go to the medical school.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
definitely got that from the Navy. Um, and I actually, during COVID, I was in Queens and we were being hit really hard. And people, sometimes I've gotten compliments about, like, job well done. And I'll tell people, I'm like, that wasn't the nurse that did that. that was the corpsman. Because as a corpsman, it was like, you need to be top notch, full effort. I always, sometimes I'll be like, I don't know if in the Navy you'll hear like integrity violation, like, tell the truth, no gun decking, no forging anything,
uh,
show up, stand up straight, do your job. So yeah, I got all that from the Navy, but you kind of reminded me of that. Like appearances mean a lot.
yeah, the little
It's
things
just
matter, and the
they
other
do
thing
matter.
too is like if you don't think that the juniors are watching you as a chief
Oh yeah.
or as an officer, well, you're wrong because they are.
Yeah.
And
That's all they do is talk about in the break rooms. What
well,
are they
yeah,
talking
so it's
about? Talking about you.
and so it's if I'm expecting to hold them to a certain standard, but I'm not doing that myself, well, then I'm a hypocrite.
Yeah.
So if I'm going to hold
Mhm.
somebody up to here, that's the minimum that I'm holding myself up to. I'm strive to hold myself higher. But yeah, they're watching you.
Yeah.
So,
And again, like morale, when you do something like that and you show up and you show that respect, it makes people just like you're my guy. I love you. I'll do anything for you.
yeah.
Captain Rabel in the Marine School of Infantry. Like this guy had a great record, and he's just like one of those guys. It's just like, no matter how good in shape you thought you were, this guy would run circles around you. As much as you knew something, the guy would like know more. And being around that person just picked you up, and like it just made you hold yourself to a higher standard because you just know you don't want to disappoint this person.
Hmm.
It really makes a big deal, a big difference. So you're going to go to Japan. How long is that going to be for? Is it 2 years?
Hello, folks. I hope you're enjoying the interview. Before we go back, let me announce I wrote a children's book, Isabel Learns to Share, a love letter from me to my firstborn daughter, Isabel. It's available on Amazon, but let me be clear. In a world of AI, this book is written by me, every word of it. Everything this book earns goes right to the podcast. This book emphasizes family values, respects parents, and respects children as they go through life making mistakes, but ultimately learning how to become their best selves. Click the link down below, support the podcast, and get yourself a copy. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so it's going to be a 2-year tour, which I'm surprised because they recently just changed kind of policy for people that are going overseas to 3 years. But my orders, I got them and they're 2 years. So we're going to get out there. I may extend for a year. We may do three
Yeah, I was gonna say
years.
you probably can extend.
Yeah, may or
Mhm.
potentially look at going to another command for another 2 years, either out in Yokosuka or in Okinawa. So I got to talk with some mentors and with my specialty leader, but I kind of have my eye on a specific place in Okinawa. I won't give that away on here just in case if anybody watches this,
Of course,
but
of
yeah,
course.
so kind of planning right now to be overseas for 4 years.
What rank are you now? What's your
Yeah. So Navy lieutenant. So I'm an O3.
all right.
A little bit different than when you knew me as a E4.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Oh three. And so yeah, the next rank, that's gonna be the oh 04. That's like, is that you have
Yeah.
your sights on that? How many,
Yeah. So
what's
see,
that trajectory like?
I
Because that one
probably
you have
have
to,
that's the first rank that you would go into a promotion board, if you will.
yeah.
I'll go into zone. So the Navy does it. You get a lineal number, and it's based on when you got your commission in your specific specialty. So, like,
Mhm.
I'm a 2300 officer, so medical service corps, right? So I
Yeah.
go up against all other medical service corps officers, not just healthcare administrators, but there's 31 specialties,
Yeah.
physical therapists, pharmacists, physician assistants, et cetera. It's everybody that's not a nurse, doctor, or dentist, right?
Yeah.
Um, so right now, looking at my trajectory, it'll be about 4 years until I'm in promotion zone.
Mhm.
But to be honest, I don't think about it too much.
Yeah.
If it's meant to happen, it'll happen, and if it doesn't happen, it wasn't meant to be, and it'll be okay because uh I would have had a great ride in the Navy. By
Yeah,
the time I think
yeah,
I
yeah.
get out, I'll be at 23 years, and yeah, so I'll still get my retirement, and I'll move
You
on
wouldn't
to
want to be
something
called a
else.
lieutenant commander though. That'd be pretty cool, right?
Yeah, I mean,
You have
I would
commander in
be.
your title. That's great.
Yeah, I'd be lying to you if I said I didn't want to get it, but I just, yeah, when I was enlisted, really from, when you knew me all the way to kind of like the last year before I commissioned. I mean, I was just trying to give 100% at my job, but then doing all the other stuff that you have to do to promote, pushing the muffin cart, if you
Yeah,
will,
yeah, yeah,
some people call it. But right now I'm just focusing on doing my job good,
right.
taking care of those under me, and delivering, to my bosses more than what, their expectations are. So, and having
Yeah.
fun. You got to have
Is there,
fun too.
yeah, you got to have fun. I've learned that. I wish I knew that a little bit more back in the day. Um, yeah, because life is too fast and you're always going to have, there's always going to be something that's could potentially dog you or a goal that's not being met or a goal that you have. So it's just like you kind of have to like let go and just enjoy the
Yeah.
life that you have. So you were saying taking care of your people, doing your job, but we know that especially in the military, just doing your job at times doesn't seem to be enough. So is there pressure for you to do collateral duties or like to make yourself more competitive? Like so if you do want
Yeah.
to go before the board, um, so like are you looking at your time and like what can I squeeze in, or did people approach you about like, hey, what about this? As something extra on top of everything else that you're doing.
Yeah, I would say that being an officer, one of its key differences is, I would say, collaterals are obviously important and still play a factor not only on your fitness reports, which is the equivalent to evaluations for enlisted,
Mhm.
um, probably on promotion boards as well. But I would argue that they probably don't have as much weight in those regards. And the heaviest factor, in regards to, your fitness reports and promotion, is sustained superior performance. uh, are you doing your job? Are you doing it well? Are you exceeding expectations? So, it's different. Like, when you were enlisted, I'm sure, especially being at the hospital, how many people are part of, their professional association,
Yeah,
or,
yeah, yeah.
you could list off a million different associations, and they're
Well,
doing
being a
all of
green,
those things and not doing
yeah,
their job,
yeah,
very well.
that was the very frustrating part for any green side corpsman, or and that is a corpsman who's attached to Marines. You like the joke would be on like on that deployment on that ship. I would see people with like multiple NAMs, and then you
Yeah,
ask what they do, and it was more collateral duty based. And then
right.
you'll meet corpsmen that have been deployed so many times, or they have done such amazing things, and they're still trying to pick up E5. Um, they're in the field. They don't have time. They can't take online school classes. They
Yeah.
can't do certain activities. They're busy working, and that was frustrating. That kind of pressure. But looking back, though, I do wish I did a little bit more in terms of I do wish I utilized tuition assistance um, and things like that. You
Yeah.
clearly had a vision about what you wanted in
Yeah.
the Navy.
Yeah.
I kind of landed in the Navy as a in 2008 with the housing market crash. I always people before that people would always be like, "Were you in the military?" Like I always had discipline, and my dad was in the Air Force, but I kind of crash landed into the military. And I find that a lot of people who are in the military, and especially those that stay in, they stay in for different reasons, or they learn to like really like it for different reasons than they had initially gone in. Like I went in to go to nursing school eventually, but while I was in, a lot of my motivations changed, especially with the Marine Corps. Like I really wanted to take care of those guys, and even when I was in nursing school, I went back into the uh, Navy in the reserves, and I was attached
Right.
to 3rd Battalion, 14th Marines in a reservist unit because I wanted to go back into the Navy Nurse Corps. That was my goal at the time. So clearly, whatever my motivations were for joining had morphed and expanded and changed. Just the luck of the draw, I got married, and that path wasn't in the cards for me. But I'm losing track here. So,
Well, on your point though, I
yeah.
know a guy, if you still want to maybe join the reserves as a nurse corps officer,
Oh yeah.
something to think about.
Yeah, I don't, we were going back into like, spousal support and stuff. My wife has a lot of responsibilities. She's in business, and I don't think me leaving for deployment is
Yeah.
would work in our family dynamic. And it's worth noting because there are a lot of military families that this kind of, if you don't have everything planned accordingly, it could really do a number
Oh
on you.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
that would be
You
my
gotta you
my
gotta have
big fear.
all those ducks in a row. So,
I miss
but
it though.
hey,
I was very serious about going back in. And I don't think when you're in, at least for me, you can appreciate it. Like I was so, like I said, I got in later. When you knew me, I was like 31. So I kind of, as much as I felt purposeful and happy where I was, part of me felt like I was kind of a loser because I didn't have a career. I was in my 30s. I still had to get out of the Navy and go to college on the GI Bill. I
yeah.
really felt behind. And I think that's why I had a lot of pent up emotion about that. That was kind of clouding my mind as
Hmm.
well. But then when I was actually in nursing school and I stepped back away from everything, I was able to see things more clearly. But if you're trying to figure things out, like if you're having like a metaphysical crisis, being on a Marine deployment is probably not the best environment to try to gain clarity
Yeah.
over what
No.
to do in your life. And then
I
here's this
mean,
guy,
you can
HM3
at least
McCarthy
kind of,
that says something to you one day, and you're like, "Hey, buddy, go screw yourself." Yeah,
but hey, you could at least, you do have moments of clarity on
yeah,
deployment. It's a lot, there's a lot of time by yourself
yeah.
just
No, there's a
to
lot of
think,
downtime. Yeah,
right?
yeah,
I pretty much mapped out my entire path on that deployment and somehow was able to execute it and be successful and had to jump over a lot of hurdles. I mean, it wasn't just like,
yeah.
oh, I'm going to go do these things and submit this
No,
package
people
and then
should
I'm
know
going to
like
put
that.
on a bar.
No, people should know that this is not something that's handed to you. You have to
No.
be the best of the best. You have to be that enlisted man or woman who is doing the collateral bit, is going to school, is uh, taking on a leadership role, is responsible for others, is square to the wazoo with their uniform is so important. And it might sound trivial to some people who are not in it. It's really important. It's presentation it's not a superficial thing. It says a lot about a person. And fitness is really important. So across the board, like you have to be a real ace.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely something you have to earn. Even picking up E5 as a corpsman, it's
Yeah.
very
That was
hard
tough.
to
That was
pick up
tough.
rank. Probably one of the more challenging things for you, right? I mean,
Yeah. That
it
was
is
the
not easy.
hardest rank. That was the hardest rank for me to make. But
I never did it. I
it
never
it
did
was
it.
very rewarding though. I really enjoyed being HM2. I had a lot of
Yeah,
fun.
because that's when it's like it begins. Like, okay, you're in it. You're in it.
Yeah, you get it's it's like that classic saying is you get leadership, but you're not the last guy on the totem pole before
right.
chief, right?
Yeah,
So you always have your HM1 kind of to have your back, but you
yeah,
do get kind of that's typically the first foot in the door to leadership, right? Being an LPO
yeah. You're allowed
probably.
to sit
So
at the adult table a couple of times.
exact yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
But
it's
yeah, second
definitely.
class was hard for me. I think I picked it up on my fifth or sixth try. I mean, yeah, it was hard, but I will say the first test that I actually studied for, we got back from deployment, the deployment that you and I were on,
Yeah,
and Ashton was like, "Why aren't you picking up rank? You've got the evals, you've got some award points." I kind of like
yeah,
went over my
And
profile
did you
sheet
get the
with
three
her.
warfare? You got three warfare
Yeah,
devices on the deployment. I got two.
I
You got
had,
three.
yeah, I had my
And
FMF from
you got so
I was,
many you can't even wear them. You can't. You're only allowed to
yeah,
wear two. You had
yeah,
three. I
yeah.
think what you did like a belt, the belt buckle thing, or
Belt buckle maybe, yeah, a little
or
bit.
had
But
the
yeah,
rank. Yeah,
I got it with 2-1. I was with 2-1 before 1-4. But yeah, I got back from deployment and Ash was like, why are you not making rank?
I
So,
know. I
I've
know.
been a E4 for a while, and she was like, you need to get your butt in those books and make rank. So I
Yeah.
studied for a few months, and I think I made the minimum score by like 20, 25 points on the next exam. I mean, it was like, wow, shocker. If you actually study for something, you may
Yeah.
actually get it. So
Yeah. Yeah. It's a tough test, and then there's for people who might not know, there's only a certain amount of people they let pick up. So you could do
yeah,
outstanding, but you don't meet if you fall just shy of
yeah. And,
it's
and the corpsman
it,
rate is one of the more challenging, one
yeah,
of, if not one of the most challenging. Typically I'd say all of our advancement quotas or percentages are
yeah.
probably less than 10%, every cycle. So
As far as like the Navy Marine Achievement Medal or things like a NAM, depending on your command, it could be like, oh, you saved lives. That's your job. Thank you. Go home.
yeah,
Stop trying to like, I mean, it's challenging.
yeah.
It's a high bar.
Hmm.
That's why, yeah, that's amazing. One of the reasons I brought up the rank, you were saying like getting out after 23 years. Are you somebody who would do 30 years if you could? That could
Yeah.
so if you pick up the rank, that's something that'd be an opportunity for you. So it's like so you would serve 30 if you could.
Yeah,
That's
I
what
would
you had in
probably,
mind.
I honestly probably do 40. I genuinely love the Navy. I love what we're able to do, where we're able to go, who we're able to work with, the platforms. I mean, Navy medicine, we get to play with the Marines. You get to play with, bilateral partners, other nations, and work with them. I love it. And the Navy, it really saved me. I was actually kind of like you. I wasn't in my late 20s when I joined, but I was 19. But it wasn't planned. So I
Mhm.
really attribute the Navy to giving me a life, giving me a career, giving me opportunities. So yeah, if I continue to make rank, that's number one. And then if my family is still okay with me serving, and it's something that doesn't interfere too much with them with moves
Yeah.
and obviously being present, I'll stay in 30, 35, 40 years. And we'll ride this out, and that'll be the last thing that I do professionally.
Right.
But if I were to get out, I don't know. I think the easy transition would be to stay in healthcare, private healthcare. It's not going away, anytime
Yeah.
soon. I have credentials with the American College of Healthcare Executives as an administrator.
Yeah, I would imagine
Yeah.
like the highest thing you could do, well, not the highest, but like, like a director of a department and things like that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I know people that have left
President.
the Navy as healthcare administrators and have gotten into private organizations, Banner Health, what Kaiser Permanente in San Diego, and some very high roles starting out. Surprisingly, very lucrative.
Yeah.
Healthcare administrators make pretty good money.
Yeah, they
It's
do.
actually kind of wild when you start looking into some of these people
I
that
know.
have a C in front of their name. But if you don't think that their lives are challenging, you'd be lying to yourself, because they're not going to pay you a ton of money to, have a amazing work-life balance. So yeah, I don't know if I would stay in healthcare. I think I could do an industry, swap. I have, as following me on Instagram, there's no shortage of interests or hobbies,
Yeah.
that I'm into. So, that's it's still something that I think I'm figuring out. But right now, stay in the
Yeah,
Navy, try to stay in for as long as I can.
you definitely know how to have fun. I see like the activities you do with your kids, the sporting events, and I think it's called what, a Blackstone. You were like outside, like cooking eggs outside
No
in the back
cooking,
or something.
yeah.
like, yeah, no, I'm glad you know how to like let loose and relax. But
Yeah.
I, I had been talking about how I got in late, and so there was that. How do you adjust as an older person, especially when your rank kind of doesn't match your age, you know?
Right.
But also coming in at 19 has a whole different set of issues. For example, I was allowed to screw up when I was 20, 21, 22. I think I was 20 years old. I remember 19, I went to a party and I got so intoxicated. I was like walking back to my apartment, like hunched over on the street. And when you're in the military, like that you're 19 and you kind of have to watch your back. You can't just be irresponsible like that. I remember a Marine who at Camp Pendleton, he got kicked out of the Marine Corps because some San Diego police officer busted him for being drunk on his bicycle. He was
Yeah.
It counted as a DWI.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
and he wasn't really drunk. It was just he blew, and that's what that was. But yeah, so you got. I mean, the frontal lobe isn't even fully developed to you like in your early 20s, and here you are 19 in the Navy trying to figure things out, and that can't be easy either.
Yeah, I don't. I wouldn't say it was easy. It obviously required like hard work, dedication,
Yeah,
and you need to show up. But
yeah. I'm just acknowledging
there,
the pressures of that.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I will say though, like me joining the Navy was not my plan originally. It's kind of a
What did you want to
lengthy.
be when you grew up? What was it that you wanted to
Yeah,
do?
so I had kind of always had interest in the military, but I was
Yeah,
just really lacking like direction, especially as I was going into senior year in high school. Just started partying a lot, kind of hanging out with the wrong crowd, if you will.
yeah.
Um, got graduated high school, started going to a community college, but I was just really slacking off. I think I literally for 2 semesters in a row withdrew all my classes. I
So
don't even know if my
contradictory to even when I
I
knew you.
know. Oh
You
yeah,
know,
it's
you're the
it's
man with the plan.
insane. Yeah, it's insane. Like on my mom's side of the family, and they all knew me kind of as the guy who was kind of like, the F up, if you will. And then I'm the only one in the family with a master's degree now. It's just it's really funny,
It's
but
funny. It
yeah,
is funny. You're the black sheep, and now
yeah, I don't know if I coin it black sheep, but I definitely wasn't, the golden child, if you will. But
Yeah, yeah. I see that.
I it's cliche, but I saw a Navy commercial one day on the TV. It was a Thursday. I went and got a house phone. You remember the old cordless
Yeah,
house
yeah,
phones?
yeah,
Called the recruiter and he told me to come see him the next day. So I went in the next day. It was a Friday and did the practice ASVAB and fill out a bunch of paperwork. I was there for hours,
yeah.
and he was like, "We're going to MEPS on Monday," and I was like,
I was fa-
"Like
I
this
had to wait like
Monday?"
9 months or 6 months.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just
What year was
really
that? Late 2000, like
2009,
2008 or? Yeah,
2009. So I
okay.
was really lucky
How'd you
because
how'd your parents feel about that? Because you obviously we were only 8 years away from 8 years past 9/11.
yeah,
That was around the time of the surge. It was definitely in the news, and um, you
yeah,
know,
actually, my parents were very supportive from the very get-go, and they're patriotic Americans, and
yeah,
yeah, they were supportive. I think maybe my mom was a little nervous, but it's kind of funny too because when I was at MEPS, and again, I did no research. I didn't,
yeah,
check out what jobs there were. But I
yeah.
always kind of wanted to be a firefighter growing up.
Okay,
So I asked them about that, and it's kind of hilarious because instead of saying damage controlman or DC, which are essentially the firefighters on the ship,
yeah, yeah,
they were
yeah,
like, Have you heard of Hospital Corpsman?" So I think they're probably just trying to fill quotas or something. But
yeah.
told me about it, and they were like, "Do you
Now,
want to
were
be?"
they upfront about like green side, or
Oh
did they
yeah, yeah.
say
So
like,
here's this out. So they asked me, "Do you want an FMF contract?" And I was like, "What's FMF?" like
Yeah.
Fleet Marine Force. So the Marine Corps doesn't have a medical department. They use Navy medicine, blah blah blah. You get
Mhm.
embedded in their units. Could be with infantry, with the air wing, with logistics units. And I was like, no, I don't want to do that. That sounds horrible. I could go to Afghanistan or something.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is yeah, just like this 19-year-old pseudo college
It's like I joined the
whatever
Navy.
kid. Yeah, I was like, no,
I
I don't
used to
want
look
that
at the
sounds.
USS Intrepid in the on the west side, where I was, because I was a bouncer at a club. I'm like, when you look at the USS Intrepid, and I'm thinking, you're thinking Navy. I'm not thinking
Yeah.
Marine
Yeah,
Corps.
so that was just like, no, if I wanted to do that, I would have joined the Marine Corps, but it's just funny looking back at that because I spent a huge, majority of my career either stationed on Marine Corps
Mhm.
bases, being at a Marine Corps command,
Yeah,
or like right now, I live on my house is on a Marine Corps base. I live on, Camp Pendleton. So, but
that's funny.
yeah, it's been the biggest blessing in disguise. I love my Marines. I mean, I still talk to them all the time.
Yeah,
My duty stations being Greenside were some of the best and most rewarding. And yeah,
yeah. I was really surprised by that. Joined the Navy, like, obviously like you did. I remember at some point in boot camp, some senior chief had come in, and boot camp, you see a senior chief, you're like, oh wow, look at that.
yeah,
So senior chief comes in, he calls all the corpsmen over to a different area away from everyone else, and he very very bluntly was like, hey, don't you guys get this Navy shit in your head. You're all going to the Marines. And it was like my first wake up call. And I think the recruiter had mentioned it, but they kind of talk about it like, if you want to,
yeah. They make it sound like an option, not like back in our time. I think every male at Corps School when I went through Corps School in 2009 went to field med. Like it wasn't even an
Yeah,
option. Even if you're going to a shore command to a hospital, it was like you're going to field med in case they activate you on a IA deployment, right? Like
yeah.
yeah. So there's
I
not a lot
write
of options.
I arrived at Camp Pendleton from Great Lakes. That's where I went to A school. I'm sure you did too. That nobody does that because it's not in Great Lakes anymore. I get to Camp Pendleton. They take me and a group of people to the Naval Hospital. I know there's a new one now, but it was the old one. And
Yeah,
you're like, okay,
Lake O'Neill.
yeah, the barracks are here and the hospital's there. I'm like, I guess this is it. And this HM2 pulls up, and ironically, when I did that reserve unit, the chief was an active duty chief, was this HM2 who picked me
Oh
up.
wow.
Yeah, yeah. So HM2 Yoshikawa picks me up, and I'm like, where are we going? He's like, we're going to the branch clinic over on the Marine side of base. I'm like, what are you talking about? Um, and then in the car, he finds out like I never did field medical. It was not in the cards. I get there, I get to the clinic, uh, and I obviously I can't work field section unless I go to FMTB, the Field Medical Training Battalion. And I say to like I guess the HM1, I'm like, well, I guess I should just work at the hospital then. And they're like, no, 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 no,
Yeah.
no, we'll get you into FMTB. So, but what was great was like I was in so I had to wait like 60 days, I think, before I could class up. And so they did me, I was in sick hall. And what was great about this command was it was on the Marine side of base. You obviously know where it is, like from up from Horno, but
Yeah, just up from Horno.
it's technically a blue side command, so it has blue side money. So we're never lacking anything, and so that's like a great way to learn because you see you have everything that you have. So at least when you go off on deployments or whatever, you could be creative because you obviously don't have everything that
Hmm.
you need. But I worked with an HM2. He's he eventually became a chief, but multiple deployments, and he was just so spectacular. Here I am coming out of A school. He's doing a nerve block, taking off toenails, he's
Yeah.
suturing, he's wound packing. And I mean it's beyond it's beyond that what any nurse, civilian nurse could ever possibly understand. The way you work, like see one, do one. Like here it's like, okay, I'm going to teach you how to suture people up. Okay, I'm going to teach you a nerve block. You're going to take off that toenail. I mean, it was incredible. And
Yeah.
that's when I learned to love medicine because, I had the bright idea to become a nurse. Um, I always loved biology and medicine and everything like that, but I wasn't really even sold on it, even when I decided to do it. And even as a corpsman and doing it all, I didn't feel like it was me. Like I'm 29 or 28 at the time. I've never done this before. How can I say I'm a medical guy? And then, but seeing him do that and spending 62 days working with him, um, I got the bite for medicine. And then when I did
Yeah.
FMTV, because I've always been attracted to purpose and just testing myself and being the most needed. And the Marines like checked every box. And it's kind of like, it's arduous work. And at times you just want to like, your head is spinning. But you're also just, it's such an active way to live. Like you're on your
Hmm.
feet and once you prove yourself, you have Marine officers that they just like total respect, and you're working with them, especially at the School of Infantry, like because you have to work with them directly with the students there. And yeah, I got bit, man. That 2 years at Pendleton, and Pendleton's a no one could know unless you're there. I think it's an amazing base in an
Hmm.
amazing location, and
It's like
um,
living in the country, but you're in between city and then 14, 15 miles of coastline. I mean,
yeah, man. You go
it's
north,
insane.
you go 7 minutes, you're in San Clemente. I've lived in Vista and Oceanside and San Clemente and 40 minutes south of San Diego and yeah, it was and I was a part of they don't call it ITB anymore, Infantry Training Battalion, but I was more ITB and Advanced Infantry Training Battalion. So I had my weekends off. It wasn't like MCT where it was Marine combat training, where it was like the non-infantry guys. They just kind of want to get the training done as fast as possible and get them to their respected schools so they can learn to be
Hmm.
mechanics and whatever. So because you could be in the field for like 15 days there, like in a row. But
Um,
for me, it was like Monday to Friday. Had my weekends off. It was really cool. It was a really
yeah.
really great command and deploying with your unit. It was like I finally get to actually take these skills again to the people who really need it on deployment. And yeah, it was really cool to do that. And yeah, I miss it. I do. You're very fortunate. One of the things that I think the misconception I had, which is still a probably a lingering discontent even as a nurse, was that I developed a framework or a picture of what a nurse is based on a Navy nurse. And I think I had a kind of a rude awakening when I actually became a nurse in the civilian world and saw that, oh, like you know, uh, yeah, a Navy nurse is not quite the same thing as a
Well,
civilian
yeah,
nurse.
you don't have a corpsman there to help you,
Well,
right?
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah. Well, that and I think, yeah, I was actually kind of shocked about some of the limitations or um, the yeah, it's a little different. It's a little different. I do like the community though. Like I think there, especially in the ER, it has that sort of like green side mentality, sick humor and people kind of getting to brass tacks, don't have time for nonsense. So I do like that. But I definitely it, I may have somewhat approached nursing differently if had I realized a little earlier, what I was basing it on. Not saying I regret being a nurse, but I definitely wasn't prepared for just how different, when it comes to like leadership possibilities and scope of practice. Like there's things I did as a corpsman that I'll never be able to do as a
right,
nurse.
right.
And there's um even knowing that you may be called to how do we explain it? It's like it's very hard even to translate it. Like as a nurse, I go to the hospital, I do my job. But when you're a corpsman, it's like you live it. You live the profession, and you're working on people who are like your brothers and your sisters. It's such
Yeah.
intimate way to learn. And then
Yeah,
when you go
it's
into the
very unique,
civilian
you know.
world, it's like business, in a way. As much as you're it's patient care, but it's also like it's a career, it's business. Whereas in Navy medicine, you're surrounded by like your fellow service members. It's kind of shocking when you leave it for a while, and still kind
Yeah.
of at times you're just like, wow, you forget sometimes.
Yeah, I could
Um,
imagine that.
let's see, I just want to. I find too, like people have a lot of questions. They come up to me about like the Yellow Ribbon program, or um, you know, we didn't have the luxury of going and putting on a podcast when we were thinking about doing it. And I think I like the idea of promoting, the good elements of the Navy and that mindset. I had a gunnery sergeant on, and one of the things that I guess is like your privilege of being in. I think if you encounter a problem, I would imagine that the mentality is how do we fix it? Uh, I think I find as in the civilian world that's not necessarily how do we fix it is not necessarily the next question. It's let's just complain about it and then do nothing about it. Seems to
Yeah,
be the more
that's
popular
unfortunate.
route. But I love having the mindset of like let's fix it and promoting like the culture that I got out of the
Yeah.
military. Interesting. I never would have expected you to be before the military to have told me just how unstructured compared to how I know you now. And I was sort of I'm not saying you were a reject. I was kind of a reject at that time. And I've talked to a lot of people who were in that same boat. Do you find that I was actually surprised when I enlisted just one of my reservations was, oh, I'm going to join the military. It's a bunch of people that they just do what they're told, and this and that. And I was very shocked by how many people I met who were the types of people before the military who couldn't be told anything, or just, you know, they were just the opposite of what I thought. Like they were very individualistic. They didn't want anybody telling them anything. But when they enlisted, they found purpose. It was kind of like, okay, these rules, as frustrating as some can be, they make sense. They're here to keep me alive. They're here to keep me strong. They're here for unit cohesion.
Mm.
There's actually, I can see that there's something to this. And a lot of people that I've met, especially some of the best people that I've met, again, if you were to talk to them what they were like before the military, you'd be shocked by just how chaotic their lives were, or how that you couldn't tell them anything at the time. From their own confessions to me. Do you find that like have you encounter people who like
Yeah.
they're creative, they follow the rules, they do what they're supposed to do, but like they're also full of personality. You
Yeah.
know, if they didn't want to, they wouldn't follow the rules. Like what I'm trying to say is like this idea that I had that they're like these automatons is totally not the case. In fact, the military, in my experience, the Navy encourages you to develop who you are, your individual voice, but just also teaches you when to put it away and be part of a unit. Would you concur with that?
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. It's funny. I think the military, you kind of get a like polar opposite on that spectrum that you mentioned. You get a lot of the people that didn't have structure, discipline, purpose, etc., however you want to, label it. But then you get these people that were like, I've been wearing, camis since I was 5, and this is the only thing I've ever wanted to
Yeah,
do,
yeah.
and I think the one of my favorite things about the military is just like the diversity that you have, and I'm not just talking about like ethnic background or what have you, but like literally
Diversity
diversity
of
in like
thought, kind of.
everything,
Yeah,
everything, the way people think, the way people dress, the way people look, the way people act, where they're from.
yeah.
They're different, the class that they grew up in. You get some people that were very poor. I mean, my first roommate in 29 Palms was living in a laundromat behind the wash machines, the dryers in Colorado Springs to keep warm in the
Wow.
winter. And then you meet some people that were like very wealthy. So it's just so awesome, just being exposed to all of that. Um, how many times have you seen, a group of, especially I'm sure in SOI, right? You see a group of guys walking out in civvies. There's four
Yeah.
guys, right? All different
Yeah.
skin colors. You got a dude who's got
Yeah.
cowboy boots on, tucked in button up shirt. Then you got a dude next to him with like gym shorts and a pair of Jordans on. And then you
Yeah.
got the surfer dude, it's just like, that's awesome to see that and
Yeah.
get exposed to that. But yeah,
What I like, no, continue. I'm sorry. There's a delay,
no,
so I'm sorry.
yeah, no, I was just gonna say that, I my personal like background and how I kind of stumbled into the Navy was I wasn't a bad kid per se. I wasn't like breaking the law.
No,
I
no.
wasn't, I was definitely partying, so there's that.
And you
But
were
it was just
18 years
yeah,
old. You
it
know
was
what?
just like I think I was just like trying to find myself and trying to find, like you said, a purpose and a direction in life to go down, because I didn't have the mentorship. Definitely didn't have the discipline,
Yeah.
the drive or the desire, and the Navy gave me all that, and they gave it to me very quickly, and by, a
Yes.
couple months in, I'm like, oh, this is what I've been missing. And I just
Yeah.
kind of thrived in that. I think, like you said, there are a lot of people that tend to, be have that victim mentality, even in the
Yeah.
military. And
Well, you get bitter, like life, and some people they really get
yeah,
a lot of hard knocks. Some people go on
yeah,
deployment, and their wives leave. I knew a guy, he came back, his wife was gone, and cleared the bank
yeah.
account. I mean, some people really get um, hit hard. But yeah, I know what you're saying though.
Yeah, and
You
I'm
could
not
choose
saying
to
that.
just blame everybody and
Yeah,
just and hate life, or you could choose to pick yourself up and
yeah. There's
see
service
outside your
members
pain.
there's service members that have gone through stuff and experienced, some very bad stuff. I'm not downplaying any of that, but it's about mindset, and it's about,
Yeah.
just trying to be an optimist and find, you know, something to kind of latch on to. And you just saw, like, I'm sure in the private sector, on your side of the house, you taste a little bit of that success, and it's like, oh, okay, well, I think I'm going to continue down this. And the military, if you hear a lot of bad stuff about it, people kind of trashing it, especially online. But
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's perfect. It's definitely not
No.
perfect by any means, but there's a lot of benefits and there's a lot of
Oh yeah.
support systems, and most people don't take advantage of those. I mean, you were talking about tuition assistance. I think I calculated it over the years of me using TA, and that's just,
Mhm.
that's not including my GI Bill. I think
Right.
they paid like $35,000 towards,
Yeah.
higher education.
Which, if you don't use your GI Bill, you can give it to your child. I mean,
Yeah, I gave
it's
mine to my wife,
wow.
Ashton. Yeah, she used it. She got her bachelor's degree. She actually just graduated the end
Oh,
of last
congrats to
year.
her.
Yeah, and there was still like half of it left, so I split the remainder of it between my two kids. I mean, it's not going to be everything, but it's something,
No, something.
Yeah,
Yeah. And one of the things that it's this is the to me, this is the most incredible thing about the military or the Navy well, not just the Navy, because Marines and everything. Um, it's like you can meet somebody. You go to a command, right? You're gonna go to Japan. You could see some you can meet somebody on day one, and like they have your back.
yeah,
Um, so are you alone for Thanksgiving? What do you got going on? Or you're with people for such a brief period of time, but you're so close to them. Even at that reserve unit, that I was at, I met two guys there, two corpsmen. They're both. One guy was active duty, deployed 4 times. He was actually on the podcast. The other guy, he's a police officer. He was a reservist for 6 years. I mean, we are tight. We don't even talk to each other that often, but I mean, but we are really close. I mean, even for you to come out on here and talk to me, and I mean, we haven't spoken directly
I know
aside
it's been a
from
while.
Instagram for a long time. Even on deployment, I didn't see you that much.
No,
But for you to
but it
do
doesn't
that
it doesn't
is
feel like
something I
it's been a
really
long time.
appreciate. Yeah, and if you were like, you're in the East Coast, if you called me up, you're like, dude, man, this I got nowhere to sleep. I got this and that. I'd be like, yeah, come over. It's like
Yeah,
the that is incredible. It also is kind of painful because you miss so many people and you don't see
yeah,
them
yeah,
anymore.
yeah.
But as a
But it's
civilian, it's almost like at my age, it's like you don't make friends anymore. They always say like you're gonna go to work, you're not gonna make any friends. You still hang out with the same 3 or 4 people. But in the military, I
hmm
mean, if I was to go to another command, like if I was in now and I'm going to go to another command, I might meet like 5, 10 people or just two. That we're going to be hyped. They're going to have my back. I'm going to have their back, and it just starts like instantly. It's really
yeah,
phenomenal. It's phenomenal
yeah. It's
how
hard to
quickly that can
explain
happen.
unless you experience it, and yeah, lifelong friends. I mean, my DMs are constantly, going off with old shipmates, old Marines,
Yeah,
catching up or sending me some ridiculous video on Instagram, but and then like you said, when you see them, it's like, gosh, if I haven't seen you in 6 years, but it feels like I just saw you last week, it's
yeah.
just you bond in ways that it's really hard to explain to people unless you have that bond, and that's a shared bond because you've probably done something that wasn't necessarily traumatic, but it was very
Yeah.
significant for maybe not the most enjoyable experience, but you did it together, and like you
But I
said, you
feel
had
like
each
I
other's
feel like
back.
yeah, like there could be this people though, like I just served with briefly at a command, and it wasn't anything. It was like but they're always there when I call, or I'm
Yeah,
here when they need something. It just happens. It's just like
yeah,
the that's something I never would have believed it unless I experienced something like that. And
yeah,
when I think of the military, I think of family. And yeah, there are every system has its issues. I mean, medicine. I work in medicine. Also, medical misdiagnosis, third leading cause of death in the United States. Like it's got its problems too. But you have to focus on how do you make these things better? Who am I working with? How can I improve? Rather than like, oh, nothing matters, tear it all down. Like that doesn't get you anywhere. And life is too short. And what future do you want for your kids? Yeah, man. Lieutenant McCarthy. Lieutenant McCarthy. Look at you. I'm really happy
yeah.
for you. I'm
I
proud of you.
appreciate it.
Um, yeah, it's phenomenal what you're doing. And when do you going to go back home? How much longer are you here on the East Coast?
Yeah, I'm gonna be here about what, another 3 weeks or so. The end of the month, I'll head back home.
Okay. All right. You mind if I ask you one more thing?
Yeah, yeah, far away, man.
Uh, um, let me say. So, for those watching who are interested in being an officer, enlisting, just joining the military in general, is there any advice, like anyone who's in high school right now, or somebody who's not in high school, they might be in their mid-20s and they're considering it, or is there anything you could tell them, like what they should be thinking about, where they can go, uh, regardless of what stage they're at?
Yeah, obviously a difference between if you're trying to enlist or you're trying to become an officer, because
Right.
those are two separate
Yeah.
recruiters. Advice that I would give is one, try and get a mentor in the specific job, somebody who's worked in that job that you want to go into. So if you want to be a hospital corpsman, try to find, either a recruiter that's a hospital corpsman because they are out there, somebody that's maybe retired that's a hospital corpsman. I'm sure there is Facebook groups that you can go and
Yeah.
request to join. If you want to become an officer, same thing. Just find a mentor. The other thing I would tell you is, start working on, just like not just your physical, abilities, but your mental abilities. You need to become a sponge because when you
Yeah.
join this organization, just like any other, you're going to go through a doctrination period, whether that's boot camp, whether that's OCS, ODS, etc., some sort of period where you are making a transition from a civilian to a service member. And that can be challenging for some people, right? Because you have to let go of old habits, old ways of thought, and you have to adapt to this new culture. So that can be challenging for some people. And, I think the last thing is just, you know, uh, if you do end up joining, just stay hungry. Try to
Mhm.
be a lifelong learner. Just like you. I mean, you went to did your BSN program at Drexel. I'm assuming in your late 30s. It's the same thing in the Navy or the Marine
Yeah.
Corps or any other service. Continue to learn, continue to hone your craft. Seek mentors and grow that network even after you're in to bounce ideas or different things off of people. And especially like while you're wearing the uniform, just always stay hungry and
Yeah.
remember what you're representing at the end of the day. And I know it's cliche to say, and I really like the saying, but you're wearing the cloth of the nation when you're wearing that uniform.
Yeah.
People are looking up to you. They rely on you. I mean, if if it came down to it, they rely on you. So just
Yeah.
do it 100%.
Lieutenant McCarthy, thank you for coming on. You're a class act, and I really appreciate you coming on here and telling your story.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Glenn. Great to catch up with you, man. Love the podcast. Love what you're doing.
Thanks a lot, man. Take care. All right, man. Well, hey,
Awesome.
thank you. I really appreciate it. I know you're so busy. You got to be tired. Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I've been getting like messages that it's been slowly but surely people been people been some people benefiting. It's just
No,
I'm
I
like
love it.
just
I was looking at your YouTube today, and I was like, geez, he's got like 300 something subscribers. I mean, I think when I
I mean
first
that's
subscribed,
nothing, like the
I know, but it's
Instagram.
a slow roll.
Yeah, it's a slow roll. YouTube is
Mm.
hard. My Instagram, it's got like 4,300. One of my videos did like 1 million views. It was pretty cool. And it was based
Oh,
on like
wow.
having a suicidal patient and documentation. And I've noticed a lot of the military themed things. I've been getting messages from people who, like, what's the Yellow Ribbon program? But one woman contacted me. I interviewed a service member from Naples who's a domestic abuse survivor and now an MMA fighter, and she had to flee with her 2 kids to a different state, and she told her story. And then somebody reached out to me and said, you're because of your podcast, I took my kids and I went to that state that she talked about because there's a lot more protections for battered women trying to flee their abuser. And I was like, oh wow, that's kind of incredible.
Yeah. No,
That
dude,
was
it
a big.
is. It's awesome to see like your desire and like your hunger for this. I've dabbled on YouTube here and there, but like I totally get what like all of it takes to put like a video together and upload it and
It's
then trying to
yeah.
like feed that algorithm. I mean, it's a full-time job. So
The
like I
algorithm's a
totally get
beast.
it.
The algorithm is a beast, man. I mean, it really picks what to promote. I have a
Yeah.
filmmaking background, so I
Yeah,
understand
I
some
was
of the
gonna mention
basics.
that. I remember on deployment you talking about like actual film
Yeah.
videos. I used to write scripts in New York, in the city,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah. One of them almost went somewhere. I think that was part of what was holding me back as far as pursuing the Navy was that in the back of my mind, I wanted to go back to filmmaking. And that was that was the reason alone at the time I wouldn't want to stay in the Navy. But during nursing school, I'm approaching 40 and I'm realizing like even people who are filmmakers are still like I had a filmmaker whose movie was on Netflix
Yeah,
who's my Uber driver. So I'm like thinking to myself, and then you get older and you're like, it's not just about me. I want to take care of a family.
yeah,
My desires and dreams, they're not my priority anymore. Like I want to be able to take care of a family.
right.
And what can I do it's funny because I was bartending and bouncing while I'm trying to be a filmmaker. And I'm like, I wish somebody told me about, you could be a per diem nurse working 2 days a week and
Yeah,
make
right.
plenty of money as a young 20-something year old. I have no regrets. I'm very happy with the way my life is now, but um, I definitely took the long road.
Yeah, it's all right though. It's not about where you start, it's about where you finish. But
You
have
know,
you
you know,
uh have you ever heard of Nikki MGTV?
no, no.
So he's active duty. He's a H1. He's a friend of mine. He's actually here in Newport. I'm gonna link up with him while I'm here. We're gonna either get lunch or get around to golf. And but he was huge on YouTube. I think he's got like 150,000 subs. Like he's
Really?
making more on YouTube than he is from the Navy.
I'm in awe of people who can do that. Like, I mean, I'm just trying to do what I can on the side. I got the two kids,
Yeah,
the career, and everything. But I'm in awe of people. I don't know how they do it. It's just like it's kind of crazy. I know, there's more I could do. Like,
it is. It's totally
apparently,
crazy.
going live is very helpful. But it's just
That he
like,
did lives like once a week.
yeah, I have to do that. I get it because it's kind of cool to see someone live to be able to real time talk
Yeah.
to them. I get it. It's just finding the time. Um,
Plus you've
but
got kids too, you know?
yeah, it's tough. Part of the
Like,
reason I did this too is I got so sick of like the news. Like I'm like, you know what? I'm putting my foot down. I used to call myself a realist. I'm an optimist now. I want the world to be a better place. I'm determined to make the world a better place for my kids. I'm not putting up with the attitude anymore from me. I'm talking about from me of just like, um the world is what the world is. It's like, no, you know what? I don't like the garbage in the food. I don't like some of the negativity out there. I don't like the way a lot of things are going. I'm going to go on and just, talk to people. I don't care about their religion. I don't care about any of that stuff. I want to talk to people like human beings. I
mhm.
want to talk about medical. I want to talk about whatever is important to like people's well-being, and I want to promote like a impartial way of moving forward, because that's my kids inspired me to do that. I don't, and unfortunately, there's people in my family who have become like cynical, bitter type of people, and just which is really just based also on insecurity. And I don't want my kids. I don't want that to ever touch them. And so part of this is kind of like my putting my foot down for myself and saying, you know what,
Yeah.
there's room for optimism, and nothing's going to get better if you just you know complain or
Yeah. If
stay
you
out
just
of the
sit back and
fight.
don't
It's
do
like,
anything.
yeah, I can't do it. So
No, I love it, man.
everyone's trying to play it safe, and work cultures always has to like fit into LinkedIn, and it's just kind of like, all these people are just secretly not happy and secretly being screwed over. And it's just like, somebody has to talk about things in a fair way, and not be so, and I'm lucky. My wife, she does really well. I make the bacon bits, she makes the bacon. So, it's like, it's a partnership. So I'm not,
Yeah.
I can afford to, and have opportunities. If I wanted to get into medical sales, I could right now. I got contacts. I just, I had to, I'm sorry, I don't want to keep you on, but
No, you're good,
I
man.
started a staffing company 2 years ago. I did that for a year, a nurse
Yeah, I
staffing
remember
company.
seeing that.
Yeah, and it was going kind of good. It was just, it was beginning. It's a really nice business to do because like you don't take out business loans. You get a place. If you have a contract, you have a place that basically pays your staff for you, and they just take a little bit of a cut. It's pretty cool. And I had an opportunity with this huge place. I had a big opportunity, but it would have required me to be on at their location an hour and 15 minutes, probably 6 days a week from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I probably wouldn't
Yeah.
even get home till like 8:30. And it was the kind of business where it's like, hey, we're gonna go out for drinks afterwards. And it was
Yeah.
like, I talked to my wife and I'm like, this is the golden goose, but you'll never see me.
Yeah.
And I won't see my kids grow up. And so that
Not
was
worth
kind of
it.
like, it was kind of like, what, I'm just going to shut it down. And it didn't really cost me anything. And nurse staffing kind of like took a nosedive now now that COVID's over. But
Hmm.
it was definitely a learning experience about
Hey,
like,
but you would have never known about it if you didn't,
no,
take your
you have
shot.
to go for it. You have to go for it.
Yeah, you
I
got to
could have
actually
stayed in it.
try it.
I could have stayed in it. It wasn't costing me that much, a couple $100 a month for the insurance. And but yeah, no, I made a decision. I'm like, I want to be, because I had an interview. I saw an interview with a CEO, and he's like, my trade-off was I mostly see my kids on Zoom calls, and I'm like, that's not gonna, I can't do it. And we're not talking about like a deployment. We're talking about like that's the life.
Yeah.
You watching your kids on someone's, it's all the time. Like that's your life. Like I'm not doing that. I can't do that.
Yeah. I wouldn't do that either, man.
But hey,
But
man,
look,
I'll let
man.
you go.
Yeah, it was great catching up with you. Where are you? You're in New York, right?
Yeah, some of this, if you don't mind, because I didn't turn off the recording, but I might put some of this kind of insert it, our
Yeah, it's good.
conversation here.
It's all
Um,
good.
but um, but yeah, no, I'm in Long Island. I moved out
Oh,
east.
okay.
I was gonna settle in Bucks County, where Drexel, outside of Philadelphia. I was a, and my wife, she gave it a shot. We lived in Philly for a year. She's an account manager, and she'll take care of companies that are multi-billion dollar companies, and they're ushering in the future with AI and all that stuff. And so she's very busy with that. But I heard her on the phone one day, and it was like, she's incredible. I mean, I knew this about her. She's such a down to earth person. She really cares. And I said to myself, she needs to stay where she is. She's willing to move for me. It's kind of like, I'm from out here anyway, and I'm glad I moved back because my parents have an amazing relationship with my kids. She's so good at what she does. It's like, I think we're gonna go back to New York, and so
Yeah.
that's what we did. And when it came to Long Island, where do we go on Long Island that we really like? If you came here, you'd be surprised. We got farms out over where I'm at.
Oh,
Wine.
really? Wow.
We're like 30 minutes away from wine country.
Oh,
Um,
wow.
yeah, there's areas like, if I were to send you, I will. I'll send you a picture.
Okay.
You would think that we're in like Idaho or something. Like
Yeah.
it's almost like certain. If you ever you probably never drove to Fort Dix in New Jersey, but it's kind of crazy. You'll see like farms and a straight narrow road, and
Yeah.
flat lands, and sod farms and whatnot. And
Well, I've got family upstate in Rochester. Like
oh, I
it's
went to SUNY Brockport for 2 years,
okay,
30
yeah.
minutes outside of Rochester.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm gonna go see my aunt and uncle Memorial Day weekend. So
It's
uh
cold up there, man. Oh
man, it's
boy.
cold all over here. I mean, when I got off the plane, I was like, geez, freezing. I mean, it was like 50 degrees. I come from San Diego.
I was at boot camp in the wintertime. People, oh, Chicago winters. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I think Rochester winters are worse than
That's what
this.
my dad, he has these crazy stories growing up where like the snow drifts would be up to the second story window.
Yeah.
And I was like, I don't understand what that means. I mean, because I grew up in Arizona, the
Yeah.
complete opposite, right? And we
120
went
degree
back,
days, right?
yeah.
Melting
So we went
tires
back,
on the roads.
I think I was 15 or 16. We went back for Christmas and they got it wasn't like a bad storm, but it was
Yeah.
a pretty good one. Even like my uncles were like, it was a pretty good storm. And it's the wind off the lake, so
Yeah.
it just blows the snow. Like you guys are
Yeah.
just like out caring about your business here. This is horrible. This is crazy. I want somebody live in this, you
Yeah.
know?
I would see guys from Buffalo who would wear flip flops in the dead of winter
Oh yeah,
with shorts on campus. And I'm like, dude, they're like, oh, this is nothing. I'm like,
I
I
know.
mean, my bones are cold, man. I don't know.
Yeah, my uncles are crazy. There's a funny picture of my Uncle Dan at a Bills game last year in like January,
Oh, Bill,
February,
they're the
snowing
Bat
out.
Blue and Bills, man. It's a
He's
cult.
he's in like just jeans and Crocs and there's like feet of snow, I'm like,
Yeah,
what?
that's a
T-shirt
that's a tough
on.
human being up there.
Yeah, those guys are hard. But my dad was like, I'm out of here later. 21 or I don't know, in his early 20s. He moved to San Diego and then to Phoenix. So
No, it's
Yeah,
sad what
he's
happened
gone.
to upstate New York. You know, even when I wrestled in the States in high school in Syracuse, Syracuse now, like they lost. Rochester used to brag, they got Xerox and they had Kodak, and those
Yeah.
those companies are gone. It's really it's sad. Upstate New
Yep.
York just kind of cleared out with their
Yeah.
businesses.
My uncle works for Kodak. He still works for them.
Oh yeah,
Actually,
I still order film, man.
you'll
I
you'll find this fascinating. So he works in their motion picture department. So he develops custom film for directors for movies.
Yeah.
So him and his team uh, won an Oscar for gosh, what was that movie? The movie about the atomic bomb with Christopher Nolan
Oh,
directed. I'm
Oppenheimer,
having a
Oppenheimer,
Oppenheimer.
Heimer. Yeah,
Sorry,
yeah,
thanks.
yeah.
Yeah, I was having a brain fart. Yeah, my uncle was the supervisor on that team that developed the film for Nolan, and they
And
won an
I mean,
Oscar.
black and white is all about the film look. I mean,
Yeah,
that's my
so this
favorite. If
is
I were to make a movie, I would make it in black and white.
this is insane. So Nolan was so particular about because it was like a kind of black and white, but it had it was kind of more like the orangish hue. I forget
Yeah,
what
yeah,
that's
yeah.
called,
I don't.
but
Is that sepia? Sepia?
sepia,
Sepia?
yeah.
Sepia? I don't
He was
know.
so particular that they kept sending samples out. Nolan would send it back. They'd send samples back. He'd send it back. They
Yeah.
developed, it was something insane, like over 5 miles of film before Nolan
Cool.
approved it. In no
Because he's a
in the
purist. He's not going to fix it in post with a filter. He's like, it has to
No,
look
no,
like
very
this.
particular. And they
Yeah.
had to pay for that. That was all out of pocket.
I don't know. I got that creative. I don't know if it's curse or what, but I don't know. This is things I want to
No.
do. Want to reach out to people and
No, and it's cool, and I'm not just blowing smoke up your butt, but it's cool to see you like kind of go after your passions, things that you're interested in. Because like you said, I mean, how many guys are actually thinking of stuff and then actually trying to develop it or make it come to fruition? So it's inspiring, watching you, man.
thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah,
You too, man. I'm not surprised. You show yourself to have humility and
yeah,
determination. Like, I'm not surprised, even when you got married, as young as you were, I think at the time, I'm like, you sure? I just
I
never
know,
saw anything like
I
that. That kind
know.
of, but you knew what you wanted and you
Well,
had,
that was a crazy situation, but 21 days. I knew her for like, yeah, I think
yeah.
it was 21 days or something. Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. Do not recommend, but it's worked out, man. I just knew. I just knew it and look, this year it'll be 10 years officially, but
Yeah.
together for 12, 2 kids. Yeah.
When I met my wife in Philly, she was there. This Manhattan lady. I mean, she's from Long Island originally, but she lived in Manhattan for 14 years. She's successful. Her own apartment on Upper East Side, and she came to visit her two sisters. She has these sisters are twins. They're 10 years her junior, and they were in PA school, and she came to Philly to visit them, and we met there, which is kind of ironic because we're both from Long Island. We meet in Philly, but um, when we started dating, it was like I told her I said, if we make it a year, I will propose to you because
Yeah.
like, I won't waste anyone's time. I'm not going to be with somebody I don't want to be with. Because there's guys or they'll string people along 2, 3 years. They don't propose. I'm like, why would I want to do that? Like, why would?
Yeah.
But long story short, I proposed 9 months later. So
Yeah. I mean, if you know,
because it's
you
like
know, man.
you
And
know. You were
yeah.
young though. I
I
was a
was
little
super
older.
young. Yeah, don't recommend, but
I
that
was
was
like
just
your age now.
that was my cards, man. Yeah, but hey, look, listen, bud.
Yeah, I'll let you
I'm
go,
gonna
man.
probably jet. I got class tomorrow. I got to get up at 6. But I appreciate you having me on,
Hey,
dude. And
thank you so
if
much for
you
doing this.
if you do a brick and mortar podcast in person, I want to come on. So
Yeah, yeah, that's the hope to get to that at some point.
yeah,
And you know what? If you come back to the East Coast, let's plan ahead. I'd love to come to the city and say hello. It'd be a great excuse to get away and yeah.
yeah, 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 for
know?
sure. I mean, I'm sure I'll be back in Newport or even in DC or something. We'll figure it out. But yeah,
Yeah,
hey, it
man.
was good catching up with you, Glenn, man.
Yeah, it
You're
was
doing
great
good,
catching up
bro.
with you, John. Yeah. Thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
Thanks, man. I'll talk to you later. Have a good night.
You too, man. Take care.